First of all, I'm going to give the introduction, the overview, and the historical background of the political Islam in general, but mainly the development and whatever's happening regarding it in Malaysia for the main part. Um, political Islam refers to the use of Islam as a basis for political identity, governance, and public life. It is broader than political parties or extremism because it also includes the relationship between Islam and the states. In traditional Malay society, Islam was not only a religion but also shaped politics, culture, education, and social values. It became closely linked with Malay identity and the legitimacy of the Malay rulers. During the pre-colonial period, Islam played an important role in governance and law. Malay sultans were viewed as protectors of the faith, while Islamic principles influenced the legal systems, education, and community life. The Malay world was also connected to the wider Muslim community through trade and pilgrimage. However, British colonial rule reduced the political influence of Islam by limiting Islamic law mainly to personal matters such as marriage and inheritance. Despite this, colonialism actually strengthened the connection between Islam and Malay identity and also contributed to the rise of Islamic reform movements and the Malay nationalism. In summary, Islam evolved from being a comprehensive social and political system in traditional Malay society into a more institutionalized religion under colonial rule, while remaining central to the Malay identity.
Understand Islamic resurgence in Malaysia, first need to ask who drove it. Two key groups were at the forefront. First, Arabic educated teachers who ran free early morning class known as Kuliah Subuh in mosques and surau across the country. Second, English and Malay educated youth, making up around 50% of university students. Many had returned from studying abroad with a renewed sense of Islamic identity and consciousness. What united both groups was a shared vision. They saw Islamic not merely as ritual practice, but as a complete being, a way of life encompassing every aspect of society. This energy gave rise to several key organizations. Jamaah Tabligh, a Delhi-based lecturer movement, attracted Malays but was perceived as outsider. Darul Arkam, a local Malay group founded by Ustaz Ash'ari, gained widespread popularity. And most significantly, ABIM, a Muslim youth organization established in 1971, became the most vocal force in spreading Sharia awareness among young Malaysians. So, what exactly is Islamic revivalism? At its core, revivalism is about reform. Muslims pushing for meaningful change in the social dynamics of their communities. Its role in the model of the Prophet Hijrah, where a city-state was built upon the principle of Sharia. The central idea is that Islam should be present not just in private worship, but in public and political life as well. Now, in Malaysia's specific context, this wasn't something new. The Malacca Sultanate from 1400 to 1511 had already deeply entrenched Islam to society, the arts and the culture. After its fall, Islam continued to shape Malay identity and serve as a source of resistance against colonial rule. So when the revival movement emerged in the 20th century, it was drawing on centuries of deep-rooted Islamic heritage, not starting from scratch, but connecting with it.
I will explain 2.3 Dakwah Movement, the rise of the Dakwah Movement in 1970. The Dakwah movement in Malaysia began in the early 1970s, mainly among university students who felt economically marginalized. It became more organized with the formation of ABIM, known as Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia, which promote Islamic revivalism and combined with social justice idea. Next, 2.4 political shift, the Islamization of UMNO in the 1980. In the 1980, UMNO increased Islamization by bringing in Anwar Ibrahim in 1982, introducing Islamic institutions such as International Islamic University and strengthening Islamic law and competing with PAS who emphasize the religious purity. Now we will move to 2.5, the emerging politics of Islam Hadari. Islam Hadari, introduced by Abdullah Badawi in 2004, was a political strategy promoting a progressive and moderate form of Islam to reduce past influence to the citizens of Malaysia, strengthen UMNO Islamic image, and emphasize value like faith, while also facing potential competition from Islam Madani on issues such as democracy and civil liberty.
So, General Election 15 was held on 19 November 2022 and no single party won enough seats to form a government. Because of this, a coalition government was formed led by Anwar Ibrahim, showing that parties must work together in Malaysia's political system. PAS also became very strong and emerged as the largest single party in parliament, while coalition politics became more important due to Malaysia's multiracial society. In Sabah and Sarawak, local parties play a big role and can shift alliance easily. Overall, Malaysian politics is becoming more competitive but also more divided. Issues such as patronage politics, weak internal party democracy, low women representation, and limited focus on environmental are still ongoing challenges. ABIM, Darul Arkam, and Jamaah Tabligh all aim to revive Islamic teachings in Malaysia, but they face different challenges in a modern, multi-religious society. ABIM is active in politics and promotes Islamic values and Sharia law, but it faces challenges in gaining acceptance from non-Muslims and balancing its ideas with Malaysia's national system. So, what about Darul Arkam? Darul Arkam focuses on building an Islamic community lifestyle, but it is often seen as too separate from mainstream society and difficult to apply on a national level, and it can also create tension with authorities. Lastly, Jamaah Tabligh focus only on personal faith and avoids politics, but this times limits its involvement in wider social and political issues. Overall, all three movements have increased Islamic awareness, but they struggle to adapt fully to Malaysia's diverse and modern society.
So, next we will continue to the rise of the new Islam movement challenge, the government traditional view of Islamic politics. So the first one, figures such as Anwar Ibrahim and Islamic NGOs like ABIM show that Islamic political participation was not limited to PAS or electoral politics alone. They promoted Islamic values through the education, social activism, and community development. As this movement became more influential, the government viewed some group as a potential threat to the national stability. So as the result, security measures were introduced, and including the Internal Security Act, or we call it as ISA, and certain groups such as Darul Arkam were banned. This created a challenge for the government because it helped to balance national security, political authority, and the growing influence of the Islamic movement. So in response, many Islamic movements adapt by entering the academic sector. Such organizations such as Rufaka and Global Ikhwan operated business while continuing to spread the Islamic ideas. This demonstrates how Islamic movement evolved and remained influential despite the government restrictions. So we will continue to the next slide, which is this slide highlight the socio-political impact of balancing traditional values with modern political movement in Malaysia. Malaysia has continuously attempted to preserve its Malay Islamic tradition while adapting to the modernization and globalization. This balance is reflected in the Federal Constitution, where Islam is recognized as the religion of the Federation, where religious diversity is still protected. Following the May 13, 1969 incident, the government strengthened the Islamization through institutions such as JAKIM and the International Islamic University Malaysia and reform in Islamic education. At the same time, grassroots Islamic movement adapt by using Islamic capitalism and business network, including organizations like Rufaka and Global Equine. They also utilize the globalization and digital platform to expand their influence. As the result, Malaysia developed a hybrid governance model where the state management Islam modernization, while non-state Islamic movement continue to preserve and promote Islamic value through the modern economic and social system.
Conclusion, political Islam in Malaysia developed through the influence of religion, colonialism, nationalism and modern politics. Islam was historically not only a religion but also a foundation for governance, education and the Malay identity. British colonial rule later reduced the political role of Islam and confined it mainly to religious affairs. But it also strengthened the connection between Islam and the Malay identity. The Islamic resurgence of the 1970s and the competition between UMNO and PAS further expanded the influence of political Islam and the national politics. Today, events such as the Green Wave show that political Islam remains highly influential in Malaysia. Despite challenges in balancing religion, democracy and multiculturalism, political Islam continues to shape Malaysia's politics, society and the future direction.